Good to have you with us tonight, folks. Thanks for watching. Republicans drag their radical witch hunt from the margins into the mainstream today. Democrats are exposing it for what it really is. The contempt charge against Attorney General Eric Holder helps really achieve three possible goals for the Republicans: damage the president, fire up the right-wing base, and as Democratic House Leader Nancy Pelosi pointed out, take out Eric Holder.
It is no accident, it is no coincidence that the Attorney General of the United States is the person responsible for making sure that voter suppression does not happen in our country, that issues that relate to the civil liberties of the American people are upheld. These very same people are holding him in contempt, are part of a nationwide scheme to suppress the vote.
Indeed, Republicans are jumping at the chance to get rid of Eric Holder. Senator Marco Rubio from Florida, where voter suppression is running rampant, Rubio was asked by reporters today if he thinks the Attorney General should resign. He said, "Yes, I do. We've now reached the point of no return on this issue. But getting Holder out of the way is only the first goal. The investigation is perfect for riling up the hardcore conservative base." Congressman John Mica was one of the committee members who voted for the contempt charge. Take a listen at how he explained the case to the Fox News faithful.
This administration is a gun control administration. They tried to put the violence in Mexico on the blame of the United States. So they concocted this scheme and actually sending our federal agents sending guns down there and trying to cook some little deal to say that we've got to get more guns under control. That's how this all started.
We need to bring back psycho talk on the Ed Show. I mean, that is absolutely outrageous. I'm a gun owner. I don't believe that for a moment. John Mica's explanation probably didn't make any sense if you're a normal person. He says the Obama administration created a scheme to send guns to Mexico in order to create more gun control in the United States. At least three other members of the House committee have also gone on the record with this ridiculous theory. It sounds insane, but it's actually very calculated. The National Rifle Association has pushed this conspiracy theory for over a year. The NRA is telling its members the Obama administration and Eric Holder are conspiring to take away your guns. Drumming up this fear only helps one thing, and that's the firearms industry. Since 2008, the impact of gun sales on the economy has gone up 66%. Republicans are also firing up the head-shaking crowd by saying President Obama has abused his power. How do they know? Take a look at just a sample of the reaction from right-wing blogs after the president invoked executive privilege over documents in the investigation. They compare the president to Richard Nixon and say that he is directly involved in a cover-up. I don't remember Republicans acting this way when executive privilege was invoked by George W. Bush to protect Karl Rove from the Senate Judiciary Committee. The right wing didn't seem to care when executive privilege was used to conceal the details of Dick Cheney's secret meetings with energy executives back in the summer of 2001. On top of all of the false outrage, Republicans are using the Holder investigation to directly impact the president's re-election chances, and they like that. The transportation bill expires on June 30th. There's no sign of any action there. The program to keep student loan rates down expires on July 1st. No action there. Automatic spending cuts kick in January 1st if no deal is reached on the debt ceiling. Again, no action by Republicans in the House on that one. White House spokesman Jay Carney called out Republicans for what he called a political fishing expedition.
This many months into it, this many months where House Republican leaders have been focused on this rather than helping the economy grow or helping it create jobs, is that there is no evidence of anything beyond what the Attorney General has said about this matter.
At the center of everything is the man in charge of these hearings. Committee Chairman Congressman Darrell Issa refuses to call key players involved in the gun-running investigation. Issa went on the Rush Limbaugh show and said that, well, President Obama was the most corrupt president in history. Issa has no respect for the President of the United States, and he proved it last night on Fox News. Watch what happened when Issa got a phone call in the middle of this interview.
So you weren't even necessarily getting the pages that you wanted. And If that may be the Attorney General with...
If it's Barack, I'll tell him we're not available.
Maybe the Attorney General he's going to answer your subpoena.
If it's Barack, I'll tell him we're not available. ISA wants Eric Holder held in contempt, but it's clear the most contempt comes from the Republicans towards the President of the United States. Get your cell phones out. I want to know what you think. Tonight's question. Will the Fast and Furious witch hunt backfire on Republicans? Text A for yes, text B for no to 622-639. And you can always go to our blog at ed.msnbc.com. We'll bring you the results later on in the show. I am joined tonight by two members of this committee that is dealing with all of this. I'm joined by Congressman Peter Welch of Vermont and Congressman Gerald Connolly of Virginia. Gentlemen, great to have you with us tonight. Congressman Welch, I want to ask you first. You bet. Why can't the Democrats call witnesses to these hearings? I mean, obviously there are some very key people that need to be heard from, yet the Republicans are hell-bent for election to hold this vote for contempt in the full House coming up next week. Why can't you get people in front of the committee?
Well, Ed, you're asking the question we asked Chairman Issa, and he says he's not going to permit it. He's got the authority as chair to prohibit us from doing it. And, you know, it's very relevant. Congressman Micah was saying that this was a gun deal by a gun control administration. Well, this happened, this Fast and Furious Operation Wide Receiver, as it was called before, started in the Bush administration. This had been going on for years. This is something that was inherited during the Obama administration. There's no evidence that the top of the Justice Department knew about it under Obama. There's no evidence whatsoever that President Obama knew about it. And one of the questions that we were asking Mr. Issa is, look, if you want to get to the bottom of this, if this is really about doing oversight, then why don't we start at the beginning? And the beginning was in the Bush administration. It was Attorney General Mukasey. And he says that's basically not relevant. So that's that's an interesting construction of getting to the bottom of something when you start after it's over and focus your attention on the administration that ended it.
I mean, it would seem to me that Darrell Issa would feel compelled by his responsibility as chairman of this committee to go right to the heart of the issue and get the head of the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms right from its inception and find out if these weapons were traced, because there's conflicting information on that. Congressman Connolly, what is this conspiracy gun control theory that's out there of some of your colleagues that they are spinning? What do you say to them?
It is a big lie technique, Ed. In fact, it's interesting. The vote next week, scheduled by Speaker Boehner on the contempt citation on the floor of the House, NRA has suddenly decided they're going to score that vote. Isn't that coincidental? The one thing they don't want to talk about is the role of illegal guns in the violence in the southern part of our border and in Mexico. I met with the Attorney General of Mexico. The number one thing he said we could do that would make an appreciable difference in violence in his country was to reinstate the assault weapons ban. We haven't had a single hearing as part of this investigation on the role of guns and on the enforcement of gun laws on the books right now.
Congressman Welch, do we know if the Republicans' key argument is even true? Where are all of the? Were any of these guns ever traceable? I want to get you on the record on this. From what you know, were any of these guns ever traceable?
Oh, they were traceable. This was a botched operation. There's no question about that. They were not? As I mentioned, no, it was a botched operation. Some of them were traced. And, in fact, a couple of the guns that were allowed to walk, as we call it, were in the vicinity of where Agent Terry was killed. So this is a serious issue as far as a mismanagement. But, again, it's morphed into this political agenda that is obviously quite distorted. And let me give you a really good example. The subpoena that the committee had issued to the Attorney General as of last Friday was directing him to turn over information that would have been a violation of law for him to turn over. Grand jury transcripts. The rules of criminal procedure explicitly prohibit it. Transcripts of wiretap applications. The United States Code explicitly prohibits it. Exactly. So Darrell Issa in the committee was demanding that the Attorney General commit a violation of his oath, violate the law, and in his refusal to do that, they're calling him an obstructionist. Yeah. So that's kind of a stretch. And some people might ask whether it's political.
Ed, can I?
Yes.
Ed, can I add one thing here to what Peter just said? You asked about guns. We're talking about roughly 2,000 guns in these special programs that went awry, as Peter said. But what it masks is tens and tens and tens of thousands of illegal weapons purchases crossing that southern border into Mexico every year, killing hundreds of innocent people and fueling the drug cartel's war against itself. And that doesn't get talked about because Darrell Issa and his friends at NRA don't want us talking about that. They would rather pretend that Eric Holder is the problem.
There seems to be some concern from Darrell Issa about a February 4th letter. The Attorney General says that, he thought that this program was not taking place, yet it was still going on. I have to ask both of you, do you believe the Attorney General?
Well, I do. I mean, what happened there was that when the request was made, the legislative affairs operation of the Attorney General's office asked for information from, of all places, the Phoenix ATF office. And they assured the legislative affairs folks that, no, we weren't doing this. And, of course, that turned out to be wrong. And when the Attorney General learned that it was wrong, he wrote a letter correcting it. So there clearly was some misinformation by the Phoenix office where all of this started. Now, this is a problem, and all of us on the committee are willing to get to the bottom of it, but it's not this conspiracy thing asking the Attorney General to turn over illegal information. You can't do that.
And Congressman Connolly, we now have a constitutional crisis on our hands that they would want to ignore an executive order by the president. How much of just trying to defeat President Obama is in all of this?
That's entirely what the agenda is here. And I called it yesterday a kangaroo court. We've decided someone's guilt before we've even heard the testimony. We've filtered out facts we don't like. We've actually doctored testimony. We had an ATF agent who talked to our committee in public hearing. Their witness, the Republicans' witness, who actually said, the enforcement mechanisms and gun control laws are too loose. We need tighter laws. We need more laws, more effective laws. He was actually censored by Darrell Issa for going beyond the scope of the hearing.
And Congressman Welch,
they don't want to talk about those things.
Yeah. And finally, I want to know, Congressman Welch, do you agree with Congresswoman Pelosi, who says that it's about the voter purge? Do they just want to get rid of Eric Holder because he's been doing the due diligence on that?
Well, they absolutely want him gone, and pick your reason. I mean, he's not enforcing DOMA. He wants people, regardless of their sexual preference, to be able to be married. He is against the enforcement of that Arizona law that was really hard on and unfair to Mexican Americans and Hispanics. And of course, he's standing up for voter rights.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that they are against Eric Holder on. Yeah.
Congressman Peter Welch and Gerald Connolly, thanks for your time tonight here on The Ed Show. Appreciate it. Remember to answer the questions there at the bottom of the screen. Share your thoughts on Twitter at Ed Show. We always want to know what you think. Next up, Mitt Romney criticizes President Obama on immigration in front of a Latino audience, yet he isn't offering any solutions of his own. Chuck Rocha will weigh in on that. Lots more coming up. Stay with us.